Welcome to Hatman Strikes Back Daily Boxing News. AJ Dubois fight week. Where is Don Charles? They had the grand arrivals today, a big red carpet affair in Leicester Square, and Don Charles was nowhere to be seen. Johnny Nelson expressed a little bit of concern over it because he said that in the run-up to a big fight like this, the trainer is typically in the fighter's ear, constantly reassuring them, filling them with confidence. He said when he was fighting, Brendan Ingalls stuck to him like glue on fight week. Now, Daniel Dubois was asked where Don Charles was, and he said, "I've got no idea where he is. As long as he's there on fight night, that's all that matters." Now, personally, I'm not very surprised by this. As an outsider looking in, it's never appeared to me that Dubois is particularly close to Don Charles. I think this whole father figure narrative has been overblown. Daniel Dubois got a father figure, his actual dad, who's very involved in his boxing career. And whenever Daniel Dubois has been asked about Don Charles, he doesn't exactly gush about him. He says, we looked at a bunch of different trainers and we picked who we thought was suitable for us and for our needs. We being him and his dad, presumably. And based upon what I saw in Dubois' last two fights, Miller and Hrgović, Dubois appears to listen to his dad a lot more than he listens to Don Charles. For my money, Don Charles is there because he's desperate for glory as a trainer. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, by the way. But Mark Tibbs, for example, trained Daniel Dubois for a brief period and they parted ways. And as I understand it, the reason for it, at least in part, was that Dubois' dad was interfering too much, undermining Mark Tibbs' authority as the coach. That kind of idea. Whereas Don Charles seems willing to play second fiddle to Dubois' dad, even though he's officially the head coach. Also, as I understand it, Dubois' dad has now got a seconds license. So he's allowed to actually be in the corner now, whereas before, he officially wasn't. If you guys remember in the Miller fight and the Hrgović fight, but particularly the Miller fight, oftentimes in the corner, Don Charles will be talking to Daniel Dubois, and Dubois was looking at his dad, was paying no attention to Don Charles at all. And Don Charles had to raise his voice a few times saying, "Daniel, are you listening?" And Daniel almost snapped at him. Like, "Yeah, whatever. Just say what you want to say, man." That kind of thing. A lot of trainers wouldn't accept that and they'd be off. But as I say, I think Don Charles is so hungry for glory and the money that comes with it that he's willing to put up with all that. It's a strange setup, but Daniel Dubois is a strange character. And if it works, it works. But will it work in this fight? We shall see. Against Hrgović and Miller, those fights were in Saudi Arabia. The crowd is not as loud and raucous as it's going to be on Saturday night at Wembley. During the rounds, Dubois is not going to be able to hear his dad as easily, as clearly as he was able to against Miller and Hrgović. And Dubois admitted, by the way, that having his dad there, hearing his voice, actually does reassure him and does give him confidence during a fight. He admitted that. I was actually surprised because Dubois normally plays his cards very close to his chest, but he admitted that one thing. And so what if he can't hear his dad because of the noise of the crowd and things are getting difficult in there for him against Anthony Joshua? It's an interesting thing to contemplate. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section below. Daniel Dubois and Don Charles apparently not really being that close. It's almost like unofficially, Don Charles is the assistant coach and the dad's the main coach. Maybe not in terms of who holds pads and all that, but in terms of who masterminds everything, who Daniel Dubois listens to. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Catch you on the next video.